Hi everyone, and welcome to the Enguru Talk webinar on how to keep a conversation going. Now, I'm sure all of you have all had situations where you've been in an awkward conversation. There's nothing that's harder to deal with, and it's something that everyone has to deal with. So if you could, in your comments, it would be great to include what your most awkward conversation has been. I'm sure we all have that experience, and it'll be interesting to see what everyone has to say. Now, the important thing to remember is that there are ways to go about avoiding awkward conversations. What we will be going through are some useful tips and phrases that will help you avoid having awkward conversations. One of the most important things to remember is that you should always ask questions. This is a very good way to start the conversation or to keep the conversation going. So make sure that you ask questions to the person that you are speaking to. So for example, if you have a friend who has had a job interview, then the best way to start that conversation would be, how did it go? Or if you want to find out more about a person, what kind of a person is he? Or of course, if someone in your office has gone on a holiday and you want to try and start a conversation with them, the best way to start it is by saying, where did you go on holiday this year? Of course, when we ask questions, we're showing interest in what the person is saying. And this is one of the most important things to remember when you're keeping your conversation going. So there are certain phrases that you can use in order to keep the conversation going. For example, you could say, really? Or tell me more. Or of course, if someone is telling you about an experience or something that they do, you could say that must be fun. If they're describing a strange thing that's happened to them, you could say unbelievable. And of course, if they're talking about themselves, a very nice phrase to use is, that sounds interesting. So these are just some phrases that you can use in order to show interest in what the person is saying. And that, of course, would always keep a conversation from being awkward. Now, the next thing to think about is that you should also talk about your own ideas. Conversations can become very awkward when it's only one person talking and the other person is just sitting quietly without saying anything. So some phrases that you can use for this would be, oh, I imagine this is the case. Or that reminds me of something that I did before. Or I guess I would like to say that this is my idea. Or, of course, one very important one would be to say, I can relate to this. That keeps the conversation going because you're connecting something that you're saying to something that the person has just said. Another thing to think about is that when you're giving your opinion or talking about your ideas, you can use phrases like, I think that this idea would be a good thing to put forward. Or you could say, in my opinion, that so-and-so should have done something else. So these are all things that allow the other person to keep talking and to keep offering their own opinions as well in response to your opinions. So some tips that would help you in keeping the conversation going would be if you're responding to the speaker. Now, of course, if for this to happen, you have to listen carefully to what they're saying, which means being an active listener. This always helps conversations keep going, and they also make the conversations more interesting because it means that you're responding to each other in a lively and good manner. Another thing to remember is that you should always be sincere. This means that you're honestly responding to the person because no one likes a person who's fake. Another thing that you can think about is asking thoughtful questions. And of course, this is related to the idea of listening to what the person has said. because it's very important to make sure that you ask questions that the person can respond to. We wouldn't want to say something that's completely unrelated to what they've been saying, because that would make the conversation much more awkward. Another hurdle that many people face when they're having a conversation with people is when they run out of things to say. So if you've talked about a topic and you have nothing more to say about it, the best thing to do is to move on to another related topic. This helps keep the conversation going. And of course, the last tip to remember is that you should always have a point of view and always put your ideas forward, because that encourages other people to put their own ideas forward. I'd like to respond to Vijaya Kanwar. All these phrases are available on the presentation. And of course, if they'd be available if you took the Enguru course talk. And some points to remember is that you should also think about body language. So body language is an important thing because it helps a person respond to you. So for example, keep eye contact with the person that you're talking to. Listen to what they're saying. Respond to other people by acknowledging what they say. And ask questions and express your thoughts and opinions, but allow other people to do the same. I hope this has been helpful, and I hope that you can all avoid having awkward conversations after this. So if you would like to find out more about how to keep your conversation going or how to have interesting conversations, be sure to check out the Enguru Talk app. This will allow you to get one-on-one classes with a dedicated teacher. It'll allow you to schedule classes flexibly, and it will also allow you to have more focused learning. The packages start from Rs 149. I hope that the rest of your conversations go well. Thank you.
Time?
Yeah.